MDI was hard for me. The InPen made it so much easier, so much easier. And now it's even easier. And I'm just like, I wish I would have had this a long time ago, but I wasn't ready for it either. And I'm ready now. And so I often think about long term. Let's be real. Our body fights a disease every day. It wears and tears. We can try to do everything that we can. Nobody's going to be on a perfect, whether you're on a pump or a pen or syringes, whatever it is. It's impossible to be like a normal person who doesn't have diabetes. And so long term is really what I started to think about. And so that's where I kind of feel like sometimes I did myself a disservice. But I'm not going to hold on to that, but I'm going to be real about that thought. And I'm okay with sharing that. And I'm on this journey now, and I love it, and I'm grateful for it, and I'm grateful for everything before that, because I would have never been here, you know.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Type 1 and Midlife Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Slepp. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 14 years old and now founder and CEO of Abundant Health with Melissa. And as a certified health coach, I know the unique challenges of managing diabetes in midlife and beyond. So I've created a coaching model that has empowered hundreds of women to thrive despite their diagnosis. And each week, I'll bring you conversations and strategies with guest experts, along with insights from my own 40-plus years of living with type 1 diabetes. I'll also share how my faith empowers me both emotionally and helps me to navigate the daily challenges. So if you're a woman ready to redefine your diabetes journey, this podcast is for you. So before we dive in, remember this podcast isn't a substitute for personalized medical advice. Always consult with your physician or medical professional before making any changes to your diet, insulin dosages, or healthcare plan. Well, today I welcome back Mattie Fisher. She's a dedicated advocate for the diabetes community. And when Mattie first joined us here back in episode 49, she shared her choice at that time, still being on MDI, and her and I had a great conversation about that as we shared our own stories, because we were both at that time on the InPen, which is a multiple daily injection smart pen, which we love. And now things have changed. So she's here to share her transition over to the Medtronic MiniMed 780G system. And we're going to dive into what prompted this switch, the advantages that she's finding with this particular model, and how it's connected to the Guardian 4 CGM, and all the things that she's learning, the tools, the tricks, the language, all the different parts to a pump that is really, for both of us, it's felt like a foreign language, but we're kind of jumping on board with it and learning as we go. And she is as an influencer and global ambassador for Medtronic Diabetes. Mattie's insights are so valuable, especially given her 23-year journey managing type 1 while balancing marriage, motherhood, a full-time career. And this episode is packed with practical tips and inspiring stories from someone like Mattie, who's truly in the trenches, not only within her community, but just her own life living with diabetes. And she also shares what she misses about MDI and all the improvements that she's seeing in her time in range and her A1C in just 4 months now being on a insulin pump. And whether or not maybe she'll ever decide to take a pump break, and but she doesn't foresee that at this point, because she's so excited. She's so just in love with this system and all that it's giving her. And I'm just so excited to share this conversation and just to understand, her decision to switch from MDI over to the pump. And it's a good opportunity. So if you're thinking about starting on a pump, that would be myself included, or maybe switching to a different model and aren't sure what to expect, she does a great job. Mattie does a incredible job of sharing her story again and her decision-making process going through these steps for herself and her lifestyle and picking something that so far has worked out beautifully. So we encourage you to connect with Mattie, and you can see the links right here in the show notes. And we hope you'll enjoy this conversation as much as I did recording it. Well, hello and welcome. I am in here today with Mattie Fisher. Welcome back, Mattie.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
Yes, and just to remind our listeners, if you haven't had a chance, Mattie was in here with us in episode 49. And if my calendar is right, I believe that was in January. It doesn't matter. All you got to do is look up 49, Mattie Fisher. And we talked about MDI. And something we have so much in common. We have a lot in common, don't we? And again, we're going to remind, because we don't live too far away. We're both here in Florida, and we both were at that time both doing MDI. I'm still MDI, and you kind of come in because you got some new stuff going on that you want to share with our listeners, kind of get us up to date. And we love having you here. So tell us what's going on.
Yeah. So last time we talked was about the InPen. And both of us were on that. So we had obviously that in common. And then since then, I have switched to the MiniMed 780G system. Mm-hmm. So I have an insulin pump now. I'm connected.
I love it. And you were so excited. You actually called me, right? We talked on the phone about it. It was so cool. I was just sitting there with my mouth open. Not that I didn't think it was ever, because you can never say never. That's including myself. One day I will jump over and get on a pump. I'm sure that day will happen one day. It's just not happening today. But you never know. We're all going to learn about your transition, the pros and the cons. So let's start. You're still with Medtronic with their product, with their insulin delivery system. So again, just to remind everybody, the InPen is a Medtronic product as well. I continue to use that. And so what was it? Did you just wake up one day and say, something's got to change? Today's the day, or this week is the week, whatever, how long did it take to get it switched over?
It's funny because when you say that, that is totally my personality, is just jump right on it. And that did not happen in this case because I love my InPen. I was obsessed with it. It brought a whole new meaning to my diabetes management, both physically, but also emotionally, mentally. And so I was very, very connected to my InPen, and I had an emotional connection with this thing, which sounds so weird. But when I talk about it, sometimes I could cry just thinking about how grateful I am for that and the technology, and to be able to use a product like that and not maybe have to be connected to something all the time. And then the fact that it's still all under the Medtronic umbrella is even better. So no, it probably took me almost a year. I went to Children with Diabetes in Orlando, a conference. I went over there, and everybody had an insulin pump. Everybody had one. And then 3 of the other Medtronic ambassadors that were there, they all had the 780G. And so they're just talking about it and telling me about SmartGuard and, how it gives you the automatic insulin. So, say I'm going to eat 40 carbs, but maybe I had a little bit of dessert and I didn't bolus for it. Like a missed meal, I think is what they call it. The missed meal correction. It'll just automatically sense that, and it'll just give you the right amount of insulin. And then you can have your target set up. So mine set up to 100 to kind of always try to keep me there, which has really helped my time in range. We'll get back to that later, but they were just doing all of these things and telling me this. And I was like, this sounds so easy, but I was emotionally connected to my InPen, and I felt like I've built myself up. I'm the InPen girl as well. I didn't want to let anybody else down. And so all the other kids had pumps, and I was like, nobody even knows I have diabetes here. I kind of felt left out because I wasn't wearing anything.
Wasn't as obvious.
It's so funny. Yeah, which is why, and it's so ironic because that's what kept me away from an insulin pump in the first place years ago when I was 16. I'm 35 now. I didn't want people to know. I didn't want to be connected. I was embarrassed. And now, obviously, getting more mature and being comfortable with who I am, that's changed. But it's so funny how I literally felt like left out. That was in July of 2023. And so May of 2024, I finally made the decision. I had talked to my doctor about it for like 6 months in advance and just really thought about it, researched. And I decided to do it.
Nice.
I decided to take the plunge, join the pump club.
Yeah. So did you look at any other pumps? I'm not in, thinking that you jumped ship and went to a different company, but like within Medtronics, because they obviously have different models. And this is coming from somebody that knows not as much about all the models available because I haven't shopped for one yet. So was this the obvious choice for you? Were you able to kind of try it out, test it out, to kind of just see how you were going to kind of adjust to it?
Not really. I'm not sure on this, but it is my understanding that, when you have like an insulin pump and this is like the newer one, this is the pump, like this is their pump now. I think they used to have a 770, a 7 or 670 or whatever.
Okay. This is the latest version.
Right.
Okay.
This is what they have. And so I did, just research in general about insulin pumps because I had no idea. I'm an MDI girl. That's just what I am. So, I had no clue what these terms were. I didn't know what a cannula was or an insertion set. And I had no idea.
Right.
So I did do a lot of, I did do a lot of research. But I decided to go with Medtronic too, because it's all under like the same umbrella. And I believe that, this one has like an algorithm in it and it has the missed meal detection. That's what they call it. And I don't think, at least right now, that I know that there's really anything else like that. And then also just seeing online, everybody was posting like their time in range at 100%. And I'm like, how do you do that? I work so hard for my 75%. Like, how hard we work.
Yeah.
And
a little harder for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so, all of that came into play and I was like, why not test it out? I think I'm in this new season where I'm just busier than ever and having something like this, it feels like a teammate. And that's what I feel like I have. Like I have an assistant now and they do all the hard work. So it's really nice.
Nice. So what about, one of the advantages that I like, and you can agree with this, I'm sure, is MDI. It's just the freedom of not having another device attached to us. So how is that? How many hours, days, weeks did it take for you to get used to? What part of your body do you attach it to? So what's working for you right now?
So the difference as far as like having another device on me, of course, like I love my diabetes now. I don't hate it anymore. So I love talking about it. I want people to ask me. I want other people to come up to me and say, I have type 1 diabetes too. Like, I love that. And so, that aspect like didn't really bother me. But being connected to something like I said, like that was kind of always what kept me away. And I think I've told you this, is that now I feel less connected to my diabetes than I ever had before. And it's managed mine so far, like way better than what I was doing. And I'm not having to do as much work, which is where like that teammate comes in. So I haven't snagged a doorknob. I don't mind just unplugging real quick and taking a shower and putting it back on. I sleep really well with it. Sometimes I'll have it, just in my pocket. And if I flip to one side, then I don't lose sleep over it. It may stay there or I may just like, not clip it on my pocket and like just have it like next to me. because I have actually the shorter tubing compared to them.
Okay.
There is a little bit longer tubing, but this one has been fine for me. And then you can put it, I believe, in your stomach, like the insert site. So where the tubing connects to the insertion
Okay.
site in your
Mm-hmm.
stomach. You can put it like back on your love handles. I believe you could put it in your legs. I haven't done that. I
Okay.
don't know
Yeah.
if I will. I'm still new, still.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Understood.
so just rotating in your stomach, lower, and then the like the hip, like love area, which I have
Mm-hmm.
plenty of room back there for that. And so, in my insertion site, um, it's called the Mio Advance, and I have the 7-day extended wear. And so it lasts for 7 days. And so
Oh.
rotating, but it also helps with, because it lasts so long, like scar tissue as well.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
That's also, there's so many things to think about, right? All these different choices. I'm assuming you
Mm-hmm.
work with a pump trainer that got you set up. Yes,
Yes.
that's magical,
Yes.
right?
She came to my town,
Mm.
and we met at the library, and we were in there for 2 hours, and I filmed it, of course. So I will have a new
Mm-hmm.
video out about that. And just had lots of fun with it. I kept her laughing a little bit. So it was really wonderful. And, they text me, we FaceTime the next day. Um, and I personally, I've never got that from any other company, that I've had to deal with, diabetes,
Right,
something
right.
that's like serious. And so
Yeah,
just that
definitely.
personalized care that I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Medtronic gives, it was exactly the same thing from as soon as
Mm-hmm.
I told my doctor and he sent in the paperwork. I actually had my local rep, she called me and she's like, "Hey, I just saw this come through. Is this really for you?" Because she knows how, like, the InPen,
Right.
and so I've talked to her before and I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to do it." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, congratulations."
That's
So
cool.
she set up like my training, the in-person training. And then I met with a diabetes educator via Zoom, and like she got like all my Bluetooth set up and I watched all the videos.
Wow.
It was really easy. And my local rep, she did all of that, which was really, really great. Her name's
Mm.
Kamaria. And I just had to show up. It
I like
was
that.
so easy.
That
And
is the way it
yeah,
should
like
be.
with
Absolutely.
insurance and everything. I mean, I talked to, somebody from Medtronic, maybe like the sales, just to like finalize everything. And one time, and then they called me and they're like, "Hey, it's going to ship in 2 days." And I was like, "Already? I don't know if I'm ready yet. Like,
That's so
am I really
funny.
ready? Like, this is happening really fast."
You didn't have time
So
to
it was,
hesitate. Good for you.
no, but it was a really smooth transition. It wasn't very difficult for me to learn at first, but any questions I have, I called. One time I put my infusion set, that's what it is, infusion set,
There you
which
go.
is not what inserts.
Hmm.
See, I'm still learning.
Love
I
it.
like mine like horizontal, and I actually put mine like vertical. And so where the tube is, when I would like pull my pants up or whatever, like it would kind
Mhm.
of start lifting. And it was like 15 minutes after I figured out that this is not how I like it. So I called Medtronic and I was like, "Hey, I'm really new. And I think I put this on wrong. Like, I know it can go this way, but it's probably going to rip out. So I have to take this out and just put in another one. Can you send me another infusion set?" And he totally understood, and
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're wonderful.
Yeah, it's just a good example. When we get things like these devices, these tools, we can watch other people do it and assume that we know how it's going to fit in, but you don't know until you, like you say, you attach it, you live your life, and then you see what you need to do differently or adjust in that case. So it's really cool that they're so flexible with it and just so forgiving of it. So that's really good.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just all part of that process. So
Yeah.
CGM, so obviously this product has its own I'll call it a built-in. So it is a synced CGM, the same sort of algorithm, right? So tell us about
Hmm.
the CGM. So that's the continuous glucose monitor.
Yeah. So
Um,
with the InPen, I used the Guardian Connect the Guardian 3. And then with the 780G, it's called the Guardian 4. And so it looks exactly the same.
Okay. Yeah, I see that.
It doesn't, it's just all white. It doesn't have the G3 like the other one did, but same style, same way to put it in. And so this is also funny because you will know this when you first get everything, you walk through it with the diabetes educator, and she helps you set up the Bluetooth or whatever. So it's already synced before you even go into your training. And then say it's time to change, your sensor after the 7 days, right? So it's time to change it. Well, when I was by myself, I was like, okay, so I need to change this. So I did all that. And I'm like, how do I sync this? Like, where do I do that at? Because with the Guardian 3, you would have to like resync the transmitter every time. But you don't have to do this with the 780G. And so I do all of those steps the same, and I plug it in, and within like maybe 5 minutes, it finds it and it's like, hey, start a new sensor, just like the other one.
Yeah.
And so it finds it itself. I don't have to do anything. And because I am now in SmartGuard, it doesn't require finger stick. So it's still the 2-hour warm up, but I don't have to finger stick for it to start working. Now, I did have to one time to get into SmartGuard. You do have to enter that blood sugar, but after that, you don't have to anymore, unless you get like kicked out of SmartGuard. That can happen, which is, say, it almost happened to me because when my sensor actually, I had a different piece of tape than the Medtronic tape, and I was like outside and in the pool. And so it just wasn't sticking right, and it just came out, and I wasn't at home. And so you have like a 4-hour grace period, but you have to change your sensor within that 4 hours, but you also have to have enough room to let it do the 2-hour warm up. And so that's an example of like being kicked out. It's just, if your pump hasn't read your sensor within 4 hours, then it may kick you out. And then once it warms up, you would have to prick your finger again just to jump back
just
in.
to kind of start. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is not the end of the world, but yeah, I understand that. And that's a good example of, just having sensors with you, because many of us don't leave the house with a backup sensor. I know I don't, so it's just always that, that backup, but, to have a glucometer or whatever, just to make sure you know where you're at. Really cool. So is there anything you miss about MDI InPen?
No.
You thought about it for about 5 seconds. I like that, because I saw the look on your face, and it's like, well, let me really think about that. But that was
I love my InPen, like it'll always be a very like, it's like my fourth child, it really is. And it really taught me a lot and helped me so much anxiety, like especially like the mental aspect of it. It really, really helped me. But since I've been using the MiniMed 780G system, I feel, like I said, just like less connected. I feel lighter. I used to have, I can say that now, I used to, the dawn phenomenon, or like feet on the floor. Like as soon as I would get up, it would shoot up. The 780G system has that algorithm, and it's like learned me. And so when it starts to see that peak when I'm getting ready, and then I have to wake up the kids, and then it's crazy and trying to get it out of the house, I now know that this is doing its job. And that is one less thing I have to think about. And I do not have to stop and give myself a shot in the middle of it, and just give myself those 2 units or something. And then just wait for it to go down. It just has learned me and like kept me pretty level, which is amazing, just running out the door and knowing that something has your back and it's working for you.
Yeah. It's your best.
So
it's got your best blood sugar. It's got your best blood sugar at heart, right?
It really does. I made a video on my Instagram, and I don't know if you saw it, but it was like that Taylor Swift song, but like edited. And I did like all my, like a bunch of InPen videos, and then this, And that video makes me emotional too, because it's just like in every video, I'm like this, or I'm wiping, to
Right.
clean it, or like lifting up my shirt or pulling it out and dialing
Right.
it. And I don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
And
Right.
it's
Right.
so,
Those are
it's
things you don't
just, I
have to
don't have
do.
to dig through my purse and look for my InPen,
Right.
or any pen for that matter, or like, do I have enough insulin in that? Do I need to go get a cartridge? Do I have enough needles?
Right.
Just my purse is lighter, which is
Yeah.
really, really
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a lot of mental, right? Like exhaustion, like
Mm-hmm.
making sure you have
Yeah.
everything. Did I forget it? Is it in here?
Yeah.
And I don't know if your purse was big, but mine was. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's
you know.
interesting. I saw a quote, and I don't have it in front of me, but as far as, well, actually, it was a stat that how many decisions we have to make every day living with diabetes. And it was a crazy number. And again, I'm not sure how they got there, based on, I don't know, it was probably an average. Somebody sat down and added that up, but it was interesting. But you bring up a good point when we can have a device that's really going to take a lot of the thinking out of your day. Do you still, do you question what's going on as far as your dosing when it's happening? I think it just takes time to understand that it's okay. Trust what the pump's giving me. Obviously, CGM is the magic, because you've got that immediate,
Mm-hmm.
data available, to confirm that everything is rolling the way it should. But I'm sure, I think that's where I would be, because I've been so, in control. That's
Mm-hmm.
about the only time we can use control with diabetes is the, like the choices that we make and the dosing that we do. But, and another thing I was thinking about too is like your basal rate. And I'm sure that's something you worked on with your educator on setting that. So they obviously start you somewhere, and, based on what your basal was on MDI, and they just
Mm-hmm.
adjusted accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah, so the doctor does that. So the doctor
Mm,
will send them in everything that he wants it to be to match
mm,
what I was doing before, because you no longer have to use a long acting, right?
right.
Because it's
Right.
always giving you something. And so taking all of that into consideration, he comes up with whatever he comes up with, and it's worked. It's worked really, really well. I haven't had to adjust any like basal,
Kind
any
of
basals,
settings
or
okay.
bolus. So no basal. The bolus, has been fine. I haven't had to adjust that in any way. And, going back to what you were asking earlier about basically letting go, right? Letting
Mm-hmm.
go of the control, because with MDI, we are in control 24/7. Every decision we make is ours. And I knew when I went to that CWD conference, I asked one of the ambassadors, I said, well, if your blood sugar is going up, it just gives you, it'll auto correct it, right? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, well, what if you like don't trust it or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe think you need more? What would you do? And he was like, no, he's like, I don't do that. Like it learns me and it'll bring my blood sugar down. That's what I've seen it do. That's what my understanding is that the system does. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't know if I can do that. I
Mm,
don't know if I can see my blood sugar going up, and yeah, it's going to give me a correction, but is it right?
just give
So
it time. Yeah.
that is something that I had to mentally like prepare for. And my doctor also talked to me about that. Like, you have to just let it work. You
Mm-hmm.
have to.
Gotcha.
Or, to really get everything out of, the system.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kept saying that to myself, like, I have to let go. I just have to. And it was so much easier than I thought it would be,
Mm,
because for me, it just kind of like clicked, like it just worked. I felt like the insulin absorbed quicker than with MDI. And, I trust it, because I can see like my numbers, I can see my time and range that I have. And so, but that was something that I
mm-hmm.
really worried about, that I wasn't going to be able to let something else be in control. And
Understood.
now the way that it's worked. And I mean, I was having so many highs in the middle of the night, and I'm talking like 200-300
Mm.
before this. And it would go on sometimes. And I don't know if you and I talked about this once before, especially maybe like, being on like your menstrual, how that can like affect
Right?
it,
Absolutely
and the
does.
cortisol being released. I know
Mhm.
you said something about that, but I don't really experience that anymore either.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I don't have to wake up in the middle of the night and give myself a correction.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so that
Just
is
more
that
pros,
is
more pros.
really,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, I like that.
I was able to let go,
Hmm.
but I was
What if,
worried too.
yeah, yeah, I bet, I bet. And how long now have you been on it? We're going to be airing this in mid-September, and we're recording this, or where are we? Mid-August. So yeah, it's about,
Mid-August, yeah.
yeah. So you started on it when?
I started the middle of May. So when this comes out, it'll be
4 months.
so about 4 months.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You've come a long way since then. Yeah. And, some people get on a pump, take a pump break, go to MDI, go back to, there's a lot of that, which is, I think there's,
You you know all the topics. I tell you what,
yeah.
or you can read my brain. Like I just feel like every question you ask is like, I think that too. So
And then,
to me, now that
yeah.
I have the pump, I don't see a break. Going back to MDI for me would not feel like a break. It would feel like more work from what
Okay.
because of what I know now, because of what I experience now. But other people, they may do it because it's the summertime,
Right.
or
Travel
maybe
has a
they're
lot to do with it
right, or
sometimes.
maybe
Hmm.
they're training for like a
Yeah.
triathlon, or
Yeah.
something like that, to
Yeah.
where maybe a short amount of time. But if you want to do it, obviously do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It just goes
Um,
to show you how, we're so fortunate, many of us, not all of us, unfortunately, not all of us, but to have these choices, and to have a company that has different choices within the system that knows you, and, that can connect the best products for you. And if you decide to switch back and forth, that's fine too. Just knowing that you got the best of what you can get your hands on, which is really, really good. So
yeah.
a lot to be said. Yeah. So been the response in the type 1 community? Because I know you're active
Um,
and
Yeah, everybody was like, before I announced it like publicly, everybody was like super excited for me. And I was just like, why are you guys so excited? Like, so everybody was just really excited. I can't believe you're doing it. I'm so happy for you. And I'm like, thanks. And now I understand why. So I see a lot of comments like, welcome to the pump club, or, just I've had messages from some other ambassadors that use the InPen, and she's like, I'm just so happy for you, and I'm glad that you found something that is working for you right now. So just a lot of support all around
yeah,
the
that's
board, a
good.
lot of
Yeah.
excitement.
Yeah. And that's what I love about our community is that, it's a very unique disease to manage every day. And there's an instant connection with all of us. And
Hmm.
and there's no judgment on what type of pump or whether or not you're MDI pump, what company you go with. It's just, it's finding what works best for you. And you found what works best for you. So 780G, right? That is the
Yeah,
mini
the
med.
MiniMed 780G system.
Nice, nice.
That is
So
like the
how,
official name for it.
yeah. Now, does your, I'm learning about the system. So the Guardian 4, does it have something like I'm going to compare it to Dexcom with the Clarity app. Does it have that ongoing kind of feedback as far as time and range? I'm sure it does. The average or the
Oh
estimated
yeah.
A1C. Okay. So it's giving
And
you that data.
I love the InPen, right? And like, I love the reports on the InPen.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's something I really, really loved. It was so detailed,
A
and
lot. Yeah. Yes.
yes. And I love that. And so just like how that syncs up to CareLink, this also syncs up to CareLink. So my doctor can see it whenever he wants. I have my trainer has access to it, so she can check in on me. My rep has access to it as well. So like, I don't look at it, it's fine.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
so it has the care link, and I can see those reports. and it'll tell me my time and range. But just kind of like those similar categories, like the A and B, like comparison, time and range. There's a bunch of other ones. So yeah, that's
Right.
that's all
All those
in
data
there, and
points.
updates.
Yeah. Now this is something, what about insulin as far as daily insulin per day? And this can be a hot topic, depending on who I talk to, because I'm noticing as I'm aging, insulin sensitivity is starting to fall a little bit. And of course, hormones have a lot to do with it. And that's a lot about what I coach and I teach and I talk about here on the podcast. But maybe that, and this is this is a good opportunity just to talk into this, because I think with MDI, and I'm going to be very transparent about this, is that because but with the pump, you could have this sort of, it's definitely the awareness of total insulin per day. And I'm not beating up insulin, because insulin is a hormone we need. But I wonder if, are you finding that you need more insulin? Did you compare your MDI daily totals? And we don't have to use numbers, because I don't want to throw judgment out there to anybody as far as how much units of insulin they use per day.
Well, yeah, because everybody's different.
Completely different. But I wonder, because I guess in the back of my mind, again, I'm still learning, and I'm learning a lot from you today about, there's a lot of pros to being on a pump. But I guess my hesitation has been that the pump is going to give me more insulin.
So what it does is, like, the basal in the training is called, we have the bolus, and they call that the burst. So, like, for an example, so bolus, you think of a bolus is, I'm going to eat 30 carbs, enter the bolus, boom, gives it to you. And the basal is just like a little bit throughout the day.
Kind of a drip, right? Kind of the drip is what they call it, I believe, right?
That is the drip. Look at you. You're something else. I tell you what.
I'm paying attention, I guess.
You really, have you watched the training videos? Oh my goodness. So yes, it's the drip. And so it's almost like the equivalent to what you were using, what I think, for your like long acting, right? Because that just kind of like releases or whatever throughout the day.
Sure, time release throughout the day. Sure.
Right. And so your doctor will obviously take all of that into consideration for your basal and your bolus. And it's, from my understanding, mine kind of just stayed, the same where it was before when I was on the, when I was on MDI, when I was using MDI. So still the same. I will say, like, mine is, I think I'm at 30 max, like, units a day, and I don't use 30 units, but I didn't use 30 units before on MDI either. And so I still don't use 30, so it's still a little bit less.
Sounds like you're about the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So really about the same. But I think I told you, or like we talked about this, is like when our blood sugar's high and we need to make a correction, maybe the correction formula says half a unit. I know for me, I would make my own choice, and I would be like, half a unit's not going to do anything. I know it's not going to do anything. I'm smarter than you. Not machine, but like the calculator, the formula my doctor made up. And so 0.5 units is not worth it to me. And so I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to give myself 1.5. And maybe sometimes that was fine, and maybe sometimes it wasn't, and it would drop me. But I never thought, when I gave myself a shot, that little bit of insulin was really going to do anything at all. When I see my bolus, or when I can see that it's doing an auto correction, it's like 0.005 or 0.05. Like, it's a very small number. And so that kind of shocked me, because before I wouldn't do half a unit. I wouldn't even do 1 unit for a correction. I wouldn't think that was worth it. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit more. But now I can see that, like, the insulin, like, it's working. And even though it's just that little bit, and I don't know what that is, it could just be me. I don't know if it's because it's, going in the cannula and it's like connected to me, versus like an insulin pen, or maybe even a syringe and a vial. but I've noticed that just that little bit will do what it's supposed to do and correct. And it probably could have, with the other one, I was just being myself and doing,
Right.
my
You
own thing,
just,
maybe.
right. You didn't
Yeah.
have the belief or the proof that it did work. And that
Hmm.
thinking is really, I think it's very common among us with MDI is, um, yeah, just, I've worked with ladies and we've talked about this. It's like, yeah, half a unit doesn't seem like it's anything, but when you think about just how little of, I'll call it liquid, it's gold, this is liquid gold for us, right? It's not a whole lot that keeps us running all day. It's amazing how just a little bit of liquid has so
Yeah.
much power over all of our systems and how we can maintain our health. And that's just such a good example. And I think it has to do with, obviously other factors around that time that you needed that half unit and your sensitivity. And, we
Yeah.
all know this. Yeah.
And
Everybody's different. Yeah.
everybody's different with their sensitivity levels, but I've noticed too, like the other day, we made dinner, did my 15 minutes, just like I did with an insulin pen. I'm going to pre-bolus. That's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Waited my 15 minutes, like my doctor said. Well, then the baby wanted to get out of the bath and she's almost 6. So she's playing. And I was like, well, I have to wash her hair. Like, don't get out. And so then I started to drop, right? Like mom stuff
Sure.
within that like 15 minutes. And I feel like that is something new that I'm experiencing, is that it absorbed like right
Mm,
away. And maybe it was in that moment because I was already up and I've been moving with the kids.
sure.
So that could have, just understanding that and like taking that into consideration. But
Mm-hmm.
that is something that I've noticed before. And the pump, this MiniMed 780G system, it will stop the basal. So like if it sees you like trending down, you can see in the reports where there's like a lapse of time that it hasn't given you that basal, so you don't drop low. It's not going to
Okay.
keep, because it's learned you, right? Like it can see, okay, you're
Knows
doing
what your
good.
trends are. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you
So
put
to
in
adjust.
things like exercise and other things. Is there anything that you've got built into the system
So
that?
you can do that.
Mhm.
I haven't done that yet.
Okay. So
Yeah, I
that's
haven't.
definitely
So I
something.
don't know. Yep, but you
Hmm.
can. I forget what it's called. It's in here
It's
something.
kind of like
But
the activity mode. Am I throwing
yeah,
another
it's
term
some.
out there?
You listen,
all these,
girl.
it's all these
You're like the real
amazing.
life Google. Yeah, it's something. It's something where it's in there.
Hmm.
So
Really good.
it's yes, but
So,
you
well,
can do that.
yeah. So just to wrap it up today, I really appreciate you coming in here and sharing such an exciting change in your life. Just
It's a
something that you've
beautiful
brought
pump.
in.
Would you
Pretty
like to
pink
see
as
it?
she's showing it. Yes, definitely. I love it.
I got a sticker for it.
Uh-huh. Hey,
You can
we
get
got to
this on
dress them up.
Medtronic.shop.
Mm-hmm.
I know. It's super cute. Well, I was telling my rep because it comes in like all black or whatever. So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's just like all black.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, oh, she noticed I got the pink one. We were talking. She's like, is pink your favorite color? And I was like, no, I just wasn't getting as much attention as I wanted when it was all black. So I needed a really bright pink one.
I love it.
She was like, you're crazy. Oh.
Type 1 and proud. I love it. Yeah. So what final takeaways can you give those of us, and I'll raise my hand, that have not switched over to a pump yet? Yeah, what would you say that some words of wisdom from somebody who's new and loving it?
If you're like thinking about an insulin pump, definitely do your research, talk to your doctor, talk to other people who have it, and have been on the system before, and just, really think about it before you go on it. And if you're not ready, like that's fine. But definitely just think about it. But this, I wish I would have done it sooner, to
Mm,
be honest with you. And I feel, to be 100% transparent, I feel like I did myself a disservice by not being on it.
not considering. Sure.
Yes,
Okay.
because I feel like for me, I'm in better control.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's very nice not having to to do all of the work all of the time, and nothing's perfect, but there is so much less work. And I did not realize how hard I was working every single day until that burden, which I don't even know what to call it, because for me, there's no word for everything that, we do. Right. But for that to be like taken away, that's why I just say I feel lighter. It's been taken away. And I really feel like I wish I would have done it sooner. I wish I would have, maybe got more push from my doctor or whatever. And I know that we've talked about like having to advocate for yourself a lot, and kind of work sometimes our own doctors and like doing our own work, sure. In research. And so I do kind of feel that way, to just be 100% truthful, at least for me, because it was hard. It was, MDI was hard for me. The InPen made it so much easier. And now it's even easier. And I'm just like, I wish I would have had this a long time ago, but I wasn't ready for it either.
Yeah.
And I'm ready now. And so I often think about long-term. Let's be real. Our body fights a disease every day. It wears and tears. We can try to do everything that we can. Nobody's going to be perfect, whether you're on a pump or a pen or syringes, whatever it is. It's impossible to be like a normal person who doesn't have diabetes. And so long-term is really what I started to think about. And so that's where I kind of feel like sometimes I did myself a disservice, but I'm not going to hold on to that, but I'm going to be real about that thought. And I'm okay with sharing that. And I'm on this journey now, and I love it, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for everything before that, because I would have never been here,
That's true. That is so true.
And there'll just be more and more things,
Yeah.
So
yeah. You wrapped it up beautifully. Yeah, it really is. We can't change what we did yesterday or didn't do yesterday. It's all about what we learned from yesterday, and hopefully we're taking that forward with our choices and our decisions. And it's all about gratitude. So you are a good example of that. Well, thank you, Mattie, for coming in and sharing you and your insulin pump story and transition over. Really appreciate your time with us today. So how can our listeners find you? I would encourage them to find you on the social media channels and to follow all of your updates.
Yes. So I am on Instagram, primarily plant-based .pancreas is my handle. And then I'm also on TikTok as well. But I'm very responsive, on messages or comments on Instagram. And I love following like everybody back. So you can follow me, and I'll have more content coming out about the MiniMed 780G system, and kind of how it started, and just where it's going through like I just wanted to share the whole experience with everybody, so they could know what it was like before, in the middle, all of these little things. And so all of that will be continued on my channel. So you can find me there, and I'll follow back.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yes, perfect. Yes, I love seeing all of your videos and updates on Instagram. Yeah, that's primarily where I'm at. And we will link all that right here in the show notes. We'll make it easy for people to connect with you. So yeah, thanks again. And be sure to reach out to Mattie, say hello, drop in her inbox. And if you got questions, right? I'm sure, you're amazing, and just very, just very giving with, your story and all the
I'm
things
an open book,
offer.
I feel like.
I know. I love it.
Yeah.
We appreciate you. Okay. Well, thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thanks again. And we'll be back in here next week. Thanks for joining us today. Have a blessed day. Thank you for listening to the Type 1 Midlife Podcast. We are so grateful for the time that we spent together today. And if this conversation resonated with you, or you just love connecting with others living with T1D, please take a moment to leave a rating and review. Your feedback helps us reach more people who need this community and resources. And if you realize you need more support than you're currently getting, remember you don't have to struggle alone. Visit me at abundanthealthwithmelissa.com for free resources on mastering type 1 diabetes in menopause and to stay connected and learn about my coaching programs. We look forward to being together next Monday. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a single episode. Remember that together we can age gracefully with type 1 diabetes.